fool, well, I'm going to say I could fool just about anybody. They got me. I didn't see the whole thing, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So do not go away. I shall return right after this with Kevin and Michelizzi.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Kevin Michelizzi, welcome back, sir.
Rick, glad to be here as always.
I'm glad you could join us today. We're going to talk about this situation that unfolded in Avdiivka. I was talking about it the other night. I laid out some numbers and some information, that was available to us here. But you're going to bring us a deeper perspective on this, and maybe something a little bit more accurate to give people a fuller view. Let's kind of roll things back to the beginning, first of all, and let's talk about how this current episode or how this battle began. We go back about, 5 months ago or so,
Right.
when things really began, right?
Yeah. And it was, Ukraine and the West was saying it was going to be a decisive battle for Ukraine. It was, a stronghold. It was an important logistical spot for Ukraine to hang on to.
Mm-hmm.
And, much like the Bakhmut deal, the fight has been long and hard and slow. So, in the last, I'd say 4 or 5 weeks, Russia really started making pushes into that area. And what they did is they surrounded the city on 3 sides and started to close off the 4th side. And, that's where we were just the end of last week.
Right, and that was their strategy, was to try to encircle the Ukrainian troops in the
Yep.
city, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Ukrainian government, Zelensky had ordered the troops to hold the city at all costs. And they were going to fortify themselves in the coke plant. And again, trying to make it another Bakhmut, and, the Azov battalion hiding in the, the steel factory. And, it just didn't work out for them.
Right. Why was this city important strategically?
It wasn't.
Okay.
This is a city where Zheluny, the previous commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian armed forces, he wanted to withdraw his troops and conserve his troops for defensive lines back in, December, January. And Zelensky would not allow him to withdraw the troops. So, that really, it was a PR thing is what it really was for. Is, we can show the West we need money from them, we need more weapons, but that we can win this war. And unfortunately, this is what happens when you have a politician not listening to his, senior military advisors. So, they fired Zheluny a couple of weeks ago, put this new guy in. His name always slips my mind, but he was. This was after Victoria Nuland flew to Ukraine to settle the dispute between Zaluzny and Zelensky, and rumors have it that she said, Zaluzny, you will step aside, and this new guy will be put in, and this is what happened then immediately after she left. So the new guy is supposedly a yes man for Zelensky. Zelensky told him to hold that city at all costs. And
there was some symbolic significance to the city, I think, though, because of its the history, the recent history in terms of the way this whole conflict began, right, with the situation in the Donbass and what the West would characterize as separatists, the sort of they've been jockeying for control over that town from the beginning.
Yeah,
all the way back to 2014.
The big thing about Avdiivka is it's where they were shelling the city of Donetsk from.
Right.
So, what it buys for the Russians is security for the city of Donetsk.
Yeah, and it's been a meat grinder from what I've been reading, seeing, hearing, right from the beginning. Pretty heavy losses on both sides, really.
Both sides, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and as usual, you get the propaganda on both sides. Ukraine says, oh, gee, we lost 10,000 guys, and Russia lost 300,000. Russia says, we lost 10,000, they lost 300,000. So you have to look beyond that. From the guys that I talked to that are on the front, both sides suffered losses. So
yeah, the numbers that I've been seeing here indicate that on the Russian side, you're looking at somewhere around 16,000 to 17,000 soldiers killed. That information coming from multiple sources, really, including this online blogger, Andrei Morozov, who's a pro-Russian blogger, has actually fought with Russian troops. And but he was posting online talking about these losses, and then came under heavy criticism from his commanders and others. Apparently, strangely, today, we're seeing reports that he has committed suicide.
Yeah. 3 bullets to the back of the head.
Well, maybe.
Suicide.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that estimate of casualties? 16,000, 17,000. I'm seeing it in many mainstream reports. He was saying about that many. And I'm not really clear how many Ukrainian troops were lost. I can't really get a handle on those numbers, maybe because they don't want us to see that number over here.
Yeah, the Russian numbers sounds about right. This is what I'm hearing from guys up on the front. Believe it or not, we actually do get relatively accurate numbers about losses of Ukrainian troops. And it tends to be, 1,000, 1,200 today, 500, 600 the next day. So if you add it all up, you're probably talking, 30,000, 40,000 troops. Now, you have to add into that the fact that a lot of the troops that, particularly from Avdiivka, were surrendering to Russia. So they've taken a significant amount of people who've surrendered. And some of these guys have even joined the Russian armed forces to fight against Ukraine, because they say the way they were treated by their military and their commanders, they were, counting their bullets is how bad their ammunition supply was.
That is the issue that was cited by Zelensky when he was just, again, within the last few days, begging for more money, more aid, more weapons. And the commanders there, I guess, indicated that they simply didn't have enough shells, enough resources to carry on the fight. How much?
Yeah.
So do you think that was the significant factor in the final conclusion on this?
I think there's a lot of factors in it. Lack of weapons, lack of training on the weapons, lack of experienced soldiers. These guys aren't getting a lot of training these days. They're being conscripted, they're having a gun shoved in their hands, maybe get a week or two of training and then thrown out on the front line.
Yeah,
So
and
it's not
outnumbered
good for the
too.
Ukrainians.
Outnumbered.
Well
The Russians have way
outnumbered, yeah.
more. Yeah, I've been seeing that at times they were outnumbered as much as 7-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't give you an exact number on that, but we've got 50,000 people a month volunteering to go fight.
And the warfare that they were engaged in really was a meat grinder again, and we've seen this.
Yeah.
We saw it in Bakhmut. We've seen it elsewhere, and I understand that one of the strategies that they ended up using, one of the things that the Russians did was they accessed drainage tunnels and dug additional tunnels to get in behind the Ukrainian troops. They came up on the other side, and then that's one of the things that allowed them to help, get them closer to encircling the city.
Yep. Yeah. And then they stuck to the forests on the north and south side, and that was high ground, so they could shoot down on the guys. So a lot of good tactics by the guys. Now, they will tell you, if you talk to the guys on the front, they got a lot of fire back. The Ukrainians fought hard and valiantly. And these guys will say that. So it isn't, you hear a lot of, gee, you see in this news report that, the Russians are bad-mouthing the Ukrainians and things like that. And it isn't that way. These guys fight hard. But the Russian forces also understand that they're better equipped and better trained. And these guys are just young guys, old guys. The most experienced guys were still the Azov battalion, which this new general ordered to go in on the last day to help hold the city. And the Azov battalion actually refused to go in. They said, it's a meat grinder. It isn't a city that's worth saving for us, and we refuse to go in and fight. So they disobeyed orders of their commander-in-chief. Now, this is part of the reason why the city was withdrawn from. And I use the term withdrawn loosely because this general did not make the decision to withdraw his troops until they had already fled the city. So they only had one way out. It was a field. All the roads were already captured. And the men earlier in the day on the Ukrainian side started fleeing through the fields to save their lives. And they left weapons behind and they're wounded because they just had no way to take it out of the city. So all these men were fleeing. The Azov battalion was refusing to come in to defend the city. So, well into the night, this general said, oh yeah, I've made the decision, I'm going to withdraw my troops. Well, they had already self-withdrawn. So he did it supposedly against the orders of Zelensky. He couldn't contact Zelensky because Zelensky was in Germany begging for, money and weapons. And he had been given the order by Zelensky not to leave the city. And, his guys basically didn't give him any choice. So he announced that he was withdrawing them, even though they were already gone.
My understanding is that one of the reasons the Russians sustained the losses they did is because they needed to, especially in the last month, sort of send waves of soldiers in and engage ultimately in, street to street, building to building combat. And because they were on the offensive, they were left in a more vulnerable position, so they sustained some pretty heavy losses in what was very fierce fighting.
Well, yeah. It was the same thing with the street-to-street fighting in Mariupol. Bakhmut. So this is what happens when you do, house to house, street to street fighting.
Well, tragic all the way around, and I just wish
Yeah,
we could get to an end of this thing so that the bloodshed would end. But
yeah.
it looks like it's far from over. I mean, it looks like they'll at some point approve this additional. I think it's 95 billion in funding on the U.S. side.
Hmm.
I see that eventually happening, but we're seeing delays with it. That's having some impact. But once that funding is approved and these additional munitions, the money, the arms, once that starts to flow again, I'd say it's kind of a reset of sorts, and then go again. Any thoughts on that money and the funding?
I saw a press briefing by the spokeswoman for the Department of Defense in the United States. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. It comes in so quickly. And she was answering a reporter's question about how long, when this money is approved, it would take them to be able to start supplying again. And she said 2 to 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know if Ukraine has 2 to 3 months.
Mm.
Russia is moving quickly through Ukraine at the moment. They have so many men on different fronts now, and they've taken 2-3 cities beyond Avdiivka now, and they did have one area that Ukraine took back today, but they're making significant advances.
So right now, time is on. Well, I don't know.
So
On how do you how do you
it's it's not on Ukraine's side
right?
right
That's
now,
not. Yeah, that's right. So
but
Russia's.
it's war. It can change on a moment's notice.
Yeah, that's very true. And if that funding is approved, I'm seeing reports that the U.S. wants to send, get this, 1 million drones to Ukraine. 1 million.
Yeah, but
A
what kind
million.
of drones?
I don't know. Yeah,
Suicide bomb drones, or these little, ones, or who knows?
yeah. And then
Are they
yesterday
the
we ran this story here in Canada about Canada sending over 800. That alone is $95 million. But when I looked at those drones, that's over $100,000 a piece, and I'm like, that looks like stuff you can build at home with parts that you order on the internet. In fact, I'm certain that you could do that. So that blew my mind.
Well, it's those $600 hammers and $600 toilet seats.
Yeah,
You got to keep Lloyd Austin rich.
yeah. So I don't know how far the 95 billion will go when you're paying that kind of money for consumer grade drones. Uh, I just don't know, man. It seems like somebody's getting rich off this. In fact, it doesn't seem like it. It's so obvious that some people are really getting rich.
Yeah. Well, I talked to the first minister of information in the Donetsk People's Republic on Saturday. Had him on my show, and he was telling me that, sure, these big drones are used for a massive attack here or there,
Hmm.
sinking a Russian ship in the Black Sea, things like that. But where the real damage is coming and the real local intelligence is coming is from these little $100 commercial drones.
Yeah, I gave an assessment the other night, and I'll get you to comment on it. This is from a layman's perspective. I think that both sides are tired of it. I think that Putin, even in his interview with Tucker Carlson, sort of saying, well, not sort of saying, he is saying, let's talk peace. I think he wants. I think he wants this thing to end. I think he's tired of it. I think both sides are suffering from a degree of fatigue here, just tired of the whole thing. I think that people here in the West are still pushing for their own reasons to keep it going. But I think Putin would like it to end. I think that he basically has what he wants. I don't think he wants to control the entire country. I don't think he
does
really,
not.
and I don't think he really wants to have to go further. He will, but I think he would like it to end. And I think even the Ukrainians would like it to end. But on at the same time, I don't think it's going so smoothly for Russia. I think one of the reasons that he wants to talk peace is because it's costing Russia soldiers and resources and a lot of money too. I think he'd just like it to end because he just doesn't want to have to put anything more into it. But he's doing what he has to do at this point because they're so committed. What are your thoughts on the path to peace?
He wanted it to end in March of 2022, a month after it started. It was, look, I can come in, I can do this the hard way, or you can follow the Minsk agreements, let Lugansk and Donetsk have autonomy and, create their own rules, what language they're going to speak, things like that, and we'll leave. And, the West screwed that up. Now, quite honestly, there's this talk of, maybe they should give Crimea back. That's never going to happen. So any peace deal they talk is going to have to include Russia gets Crimea. And Putin is not going to give up on the Lugansk, the Donetsk, the Kherson, none of those regions that they currently occupy, but further, he wants those whole territories. He wants those whole oblasts because he considers the halves of like the Donetsk Oblast that Russia still hold or that Ukraine still holds. He considers that occupied territory. So he wants those whole oblasts. Now, would he be willing to negotiate and let loose of them? I would say probably, but he's not going to give up what he already has.
Yeah, it seems to me now is the time to end this.
And
because
he's negotiating from a point of power at this point.
And I think, the other reason I think this is the optimal time to bring this to a conclusion and get to a place of peace is because I think he has what he wants. And I think I think honestly, the West could live with the current situation and have some of it, but not all of it, and sort of have it half and half, right? It ends up being a compromise that they could have reached maybe politically or some other political solution, but instead we have a lot of dead people.
Well, if we only had some diplomats left in the Western countries.
Yeah, instead
you look at Germany and France and the United States, Canada, there's just no diplomats left.
It's very true. It's very true. And it's obstinate. They're just obstinate. They are arrogant. They, grossly overconfident. They thought they could just, push in politically into Ukraine without real consequence and really kind of poke a finger in the eye of the bear. And they found out otherwise. They certainly did.
Don't poke a stick at a sleeping bear.
Yeah. That never had to happen. Said that from the beginning. Unfortunately, it did. And then, you can get into the political talk on this, but it doesn't matter. Because we have a lot of blood that didn't have to be spilled, in my view. It's truly
something I was talking to Lori the other couple of nights ago, and she said you guys weren't hearing this in the West, but there's actually a Ukrainian underground partisans that are fighting on the side of Russia, And it started right around the 1st of February. They burned down a warehouse with volunteer aid and supplies for the armed forces of Ukraine. And that was in the Odessa region. I've heard of, up around Kharkiv, they had some guys poisoning the Ukrainian soldiers with alcohol, self-made alcohol that they, added poison to. 100 liters a month they were supplying. And, here's the story. So this weekend, this group derailed a train coming from Romania filled with 155 millimeter shells destined for the front and missiles destined for the Ukrainian front lines. They derailed and destroyed the train. And then on the 18th, which was Sunday, they actually burned down a drone manufacturing plant in Western Ukraine as well.
Yeah, no information about that over here at all. Not a peep.
Yeah.
Nothing. So
yeah, the site you were showing, I sent you the links. They, I've actually verified the information with the guys over here. So it is real stuff.
So these sources here, this is southfront.press it's called.
Yep. And Southfront is an independent news agency. They're kind of like Maverick News. They're truth seekers. They tend to be fairly reliable. Like anything,
well, then they're not like us because we're 100% reliable.
Well, yeah.
We try to be anyway.
I'll just say that I don't take anything they say without verifying it elsewhere first.
Right. Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was not familiar with these news sources at all. So this is all new to me. I'll check them out from time to time to see what they have to say. And it looks like they are pretty thorough with their pictures and the little clips of the video. So it looks like they're following stuff. And then I know, Kevin, that you have excellent sources in various places that feed you very reliable information, and that's why it's so valuable to have you on the program. Which is also why I need to ask you about the situation with the Russian Black Sea Fleet, because I was reporting the other day that as much as 20% of it had been reported disabled or lost. So the Russian Navy suffering some losses there that were, I think, surprising in number. When I went online and was just looking at the losses on both sides, on the naval side of things, I was amazed to see how active the battle had been on the water.
Yeah, well, yes and no. It was active in the very beginning, particularly in the Azov Sea. So 20% would be 10 out of the 50 ships in the Black Sea Fleet, or what was in the Black Sea Fleet, we should say at this point. So 20% is a pretty accurate number. So I have found the actual numbers on this, and Russia has lost 10 ships, but that is 5 surface vessels and 5 auxiliary support vessels. And some of those vessels that they have lost were actually Ukrainian ships that they salvaged when the Ukrainian Navy sunk them. So when the conflict started in the Azov Sea, they sank 13 ships in the Azov Sea, and Russia brought them back out, refurbished them, put them back into service in the Black Sea Fleet. So total, Russia had 68 ships that they were using, or 63 ships, sorry. So 20% would be 13 including the Ukrainian ships they were using. So 10 is about 20% of their original fleet. Now, Ukraine is reporting, I think you sent me what you were getting over there, that they've destroyed a third of Russia's navy and, a third of the Black Sea fleet. They're claiming 18 ships sunk. And this is not the Ukrainian Navy that is putting these numbers out there that the West is picking up on and reporting. This is, a guy in the Ukrainian Navy or a Ukrainian news source. The official Ukrainian numbers are 15 ships were destroyed in combat, with 13 captured, including the ones that they sunk and were reclaimed. So, they're claiming 18. The actual number is 9 on Russia's side, including support ships, and 15 on Ukraine's side. And the support ships are, tugboats. Russia lost a tugboat. They lost 3 patrol boats and 1 assault craft. So as far as large ships, they've lost, they've lost a cruiser, 3 patrol boats, 1 command ship, a couple of landing ships, and the tugboat. Ukraine, on the other hand, has lost a frigate, a corvette, a couple of patrol boats, 6 gunboats, 1 assault boat. And that number, I know, is not correct. These are official Ukrainian and Russian numbers. So the 1 assault boat and craft, I know isn't true, because they have been attacking Crimea using these assault crafts. Basically, they're U.S.-built speedboats. And, they put 5-6 guys in it, then they speed towards the shore, and, Russia's launching helicopters out that shoot them down in the water. So I know these numbers are not accurate on the Ukrainian side. The Russian side, I can't really speak for, but these are the official numbers from the Russian Navy and the Ukrainian Navy. So the toll stands at 10 and 15 officially.
The other thing that I've seen in the last 2 days is a report that the U.S. is, and that the headline was, the U.S. is leaning toward sending longer range missiles to Ukraine to use in the HIMARS systems. And if that happens, that would give Ukraine the ability to strike further into the Crimea area. This is worrisome to me, because when they first sent those HIMARS systems to Ukraine, they only provided the shorter range munitions. And I remember that Ukraine was told, you are not allowed to use these to strike into Russian territory. I remember that very, very clearly. Now It seems like the U.S. position, the NATO position on it, is shifting, and it's further escalation. And I would like your thoughts on that, because while it might not represent a Cuban Missile Crisis existential style threat to Russia, it does suggest to me that we're getting into even more dangerous territory.
Well, keep in mind that the reason the West doesn't prevent them from using them against Crimea is because they consider Crimea Ukraine.
Right.
So the attitude is, well, they can strike Crimea all they want because it's their own territory. Now, I had this discussion with somebody just a couple of days ago, about the strike further into Crimea. Reality is the U.S. has been supplying the medium-range missiles already. Those missiles can reach everywhere in Crimea, with the exception of the city of Yalta, one city in Crimea. So the only thing it will buy them with longer range missiles is hitting the city of Yalta. So is one city going to make a difference? Not really. It means they can shoot further out into the sea. But can you use those ATACMS missiles to hit a ship out in the middle of the sea? They've claimed they've done it in the past, but it's been disproven. So it's the sea drones that they hit ships with. So I think is what it's going to do is it is going to escalate more on mainland Russia. They've been forbidden from using these weapons on Russian territory, but they have been anyway. And you don't see the United States scolding them for it. They just ship them more.
Yeah.
Belgorod is constantly shelled with these missiles.
I wanted to ask you too, and this goes back to the Tucker Carlson thing, and maybe you know about this, maybe you don't. This is out of the blue. Right after the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin, there were reports over here of big fires in Moscow. And I didn't report on it because I couldn't verify it. It looked to me like it could just be fake news, propaganda. Did you hear anything about these fires in Moscow the night of the Tucker Carlson Putin interview? It just seemed like it was. I don't know.
It was fake. Have there been big fires in the Moscow region? Yeah. They had a wild berries warehouse. It's like an Amazon warehouse burned down. 50,000 square meters, big warehouse. You never do get a clear report of what caused these fires. Anytime there's one of these big fires, it's always, somebody was smoking where they weren't supposed to be, or they weren't following safety procedures. I think there's more to it. I think it is probably Ukrainian cells operating throughout Russia. So there have been some of these big fires. After the Tucker Carlson interview, no, absolutely not. The last one they had up there was this warehouse. They had an apartment building that burned not too long ago, but that was, somebody, blew up their kitchen with their gas line, probably heating their home with their stove, which is very common here. I had to break my wife of that habit, years ago.
Yeah, so. That's why I didn't report on it. It is so hard, though. It's becoming so difficult to separate fact from fiction online right now. I'm trying to be. I'm 10 times more careful than I ever was before in vetting information, and yet I still get duped once in a while. I thought that Back to the Future trailer for Back to the Future 4 was real, and it's just a fan tribute thing. So it fooled me. So easy to get fooled. But when I'm wrong, and I admit it. What about the reports of NATO troops? Any more talk about that over there? NATO troops like actually being used, posing as mercenaries, but they're actually NATO troops. And is there more talk about that? Because that also is obviously a concern. If NATO troops are actually engaged in the battle, then we have a bit of a different situation on our hands.
Yeah, I mean, they've got large groups of foreign mercenaries in Ukraine fighting for Ukraine. So, that's a big news story here when they blow up one of the hotels that they're staying in, or, one of their command posts, something like that. So they do show, this is where they were. They show the passports. So, and they, they show the patches off of the shoulders. So this is real. They have soldiers from France, the United States, Germany, bunch of different places.
Yeah.
But technically they're mercenaries because they aren't there, under their country's uniforms. They wear Ukrainian uniforms, with their flags on it. So it's the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. But they also have them in Russia fighting for Russia. So, if you want citizenship, Rick, in Russia, you can come over here, you can volunteer to fight on the front line, and they'll make you a citizen.
Well, it's tempting, but I'm not really a big fan of war, so it's not my first choice.
Yeah, I figured out that, most people that want to take a deal like that, they don't realize that they shoot back at you.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. That's the problem. Well, it's
Yeah.
not just the problem. I don't want to go shoot at anybody anyway.
I
That's-
agree.
That's me. Kevin, is there anything else you'd like to add today or think that we might be missing?
No, I think that pretty much covers it for a quick update.
Really appreciate you helping us get a proper perspective on this. It's always difficult because we get certain kinds of information flowing over here and you get your information over there. And when we put it all together, I think it gives people a more complete and more accurate picture that gets us closer to the truth. One more time, tell people how they can find your work.
You can find me at this YouTube channel down here. I do propaganda stuff there. If you want to hear about life in Crimea and what it's like to live here, you can find me on YouTube at American Crimea.
And when you say you do propaganda stuff, what you mean is you look at propaganda. You don't
I
create
look at it
propaganda.
and I expose it. Yes. As a guy who used to do propaganda, I expose propaganda. Yeah.
All right. Kevin Michelizzi, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Rick.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm going to wave my arms, but this time I have my microphone on, so now it makes a little more sense. I'm back, and joining us live from Detroit, the Motor City, the one, the only, Joseph Leonard.
Hello,
sir.
hello. And I was glad to hear him say, because I say over and over and over again, but over and over and over again, some people just want their own confirmation bias. They just automatically dismiss anything that's inconvenient to their narrative. And he repeated like I do. Every side in a conflict engages in propaganda. That's why it is difficult to ferret out truth and facts from fiction and that, right?
It's true. That's what I keep saying here. Right now, you have to be very careful what you accept as being real or factual, because we are in a time of war. We're being bombarded with all kinds of propaganda from all sides, and it is more sophisticated than it has ever been before. They are messing with your mind.
Yep, yep. I wish somebody would offer me money to peddle certain propaganda, but nobody's made the offer.
So, Joseph, Julian Assange. Let's talk about that first, just because I know that things have kind of, evolved over there over the last 2 days. 2-day hearing. Assange wasn't in court, wasn't even there by video link because he is ill. He's trying to avoid being extradited to the United States. U.S. officials today said that he should face espionage charges, saying that accusing him of putting innocent lives at risk. They say, U.S. officials say, that he went way beyond journalism, their words, in his bid to solicit, steal, and indiscriminately publish, as they put it, classified U.S. government documents. That was their argument today in court. They say that he isn't, I guess basically, to paraphrase, they're saying he isn't really a journalist.
Yeah, well, I somewhat agree with he went too far. I like Snowden. Consider Assange a patriot, right? Part patriot, part traitor, and I appreciate it. I have no doubt that Russia and China think of him the same way, also, right? It's not like Assange has only let out Western secrets. So, and obviously, here on the West, it'd be nice if he released more stuff exposing them than the things he did exposing us. But there are things that need to be exposed. Where is that line? Where is that fine line? And yes, I do agree. He crossed and put not just lives on the line, but lives were indeed lost because of information he released. So I'm in that ground where, I can understand Assange not wanting to come to the U.S. and some in the U.S. wanting to come here, but others considering him a hero. I stick with that patriot word. Again, last time I was on, we took gray areas. The person you had the other day questioning something I said while on the show, people want confirmation bias and things that don't fit their narrative. They don't like, they just want to exclude it. Things don't, they have this square peg, and it doesn't matter if it's a round hole, a rectangular hole, an octagonish hole. They're going to jam that damn thing in that hole, right? It's like we've talked about on the show, not to go there, but the easiest example, right? The Jews. Always the Jews. Gotta be the Jews. The Jews did this. The Jews did that. The Jews did everything. They're responsible. Doesn't matter what the question is. That square peg, they're going to jam into that hole. It doesn't matter what the hell it is.
Yeah. I think you probably just made some heads blow up with what you just said.
But yeah. Journalist. So yeah, I'm of mixed emotion regarding him. I hope that's come because again, I see the gray areas. Things
I think
aren't
that you can
always black
you
and white.
I can respect your opinion on that. This is a difficult issue, a difficult case. It's very complex. I honestly I see people on one side or the other, the arguments that they have. I think that in order to strengthen their arguments, they simplify the issue. Then they take a very strong stand on it because they're trying to win the argument. I can see both sides. I get it. The whole thing makes me squirm as a journalist. It makes me very uncomfortable. Personally, I have turned away stolen documents, offers of stolen documents in the past because I don't. Well, I won't get into the particulars of those particular cases, but in the case of Julian Assange, totally different attitude, a different approach, and it's not black and white as far as I am concerned. I see both sides. So I'm reserving my real opinion on this until I get more evidence, more information. It's not a cop out. I don't feel like I've been as much as even though there's all this information out there, there's a lot of opinion out there. There's a lot of narrative. There's a lot of nuanced reporting. And I'm just waiting until I feel comfortable enough with the information that's flowing before I even form an opinion on this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever will form a hard opinion on this case.
I'm in the same camp with you, but it goes back to the whole swastika thing again, right? People get emotionally invested. They react emotionally. They don't want to know or hear if there's any sort of context. By way of example, I've explained how it is more a anti-Russia thing than a pro-Nazi thing in Ukraine. Likewise, or the converse to that is in the Middle East, remember Hitler went to the Lebanon area to meet with the Mufti. There were a lot of Arabs who sided with Nazis because they too seen them as quasi-liberators, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were in areas under control of Britain, France, and Spain. So they welcome, be careful what you wish for. You're inviting one evil to help with what you perceive as another evil. But it's different in the Middle East, of course, because a lot of the Islamists are anti-Semites, and indeed the use of the swastika today in the Middle East is not anti-Britain. It is indeed pro-Hitler and killing of Jews. So there's difference. But in the 70s or 80s it was here in the Detroit area. Some of the details are fuzzy because it was a long time ago. But either the Penobscot building, the Fisher building, one of the buildings, we didn't think in terms of snowflakes, but there were pathetical corruptness people then. But some snowflakes saw swastikas on a building, right? And like this discussion that I tried to bring context to, they too leaped to conclusions and didn't want to hear any context. A swastika to them, any swastika to them, must be a Nazi swastika. Well, they weren't Nazi swastikas. They were Native American tribe swastikas, but yet people bent over backwards and they were sandblasted from the building rather than have the earnest, honest discussion, because no one wants to hear the facts, the truth, the context, all sides. They just get emotional and ingrained and invested in a
So
position.
okay, we're gonna take a break. Okay, gonna take a break. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. The reason I wanted you to come on the program tonight was because of what we were talking about the other night, which was you were saying some stuff about World War II history, and I had asked you about it because somebody had asked me about it, and I just wanted you to come on and explain the context in response to that, and that's really why I thought it was important to bring you on this evening. So there were two things. One, a reference to Finland in World War II. So let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't even remember you. Honestly, I don't even remember you talking about it. Sometimes we just get into stuff. I'm pushing buttons so quickly that I miss things a little bit here and a little bit there. So I don't recall what you said.
yeah.
So
And
please, do you remember?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of times in the moment, I ramble through a lot of things, and yeah, you missed it, but somebody, because of the narrative they want, what I said was inconvenient, so they focused on that. Is it any wonder why Finland today wanted to be and was admitted to NATO? Because Russia invaded Finland before Hitler invaded anyone. And it's also an inconvenient fact that people like to leave out that Stalin also invaded Poland the same time Hitler invaded Poland. These are inconvenient facts to some people who want to bury Russian history.
Yeah, it would. And I'm just checking this. That's quite correct. November 30th, 1939. Soviet forces invaded Finland with 21 divisions, 450,000 men, bombed Helsinki. They killed about 100 citizens and destroyed more than 50 buildings. There you go.
But yet, somebody was questioning me on that.
Apparently. The other thing, and then World War II came, rolled along after that. The other thing, what was it? I mentioned it to you in the message I sent when I asked. Oh, you said, and again, I don't even really remember you saying this because we covered so much stuff. You said the Nazis liberated Ukraine. But I think there's some context that you might add to that to explain what you meant by that.
Yeah, I've been consistent on this all along. Again, it's like the Middle Eastern Arabs also seen the Nazis as liberators from England, Spain, and France. Liberation in the loose sense of the term. But again, be careful what you wish for, right? It is again like us siding with Stalin. He wasn't our friend. They weren't our allies, but they were a necessary evil to link up with temporarily to defeat the other evil that was Hitler at the time. The enemy of my enemy notion. I've said this over and over, consistent about the quasi-Nazi brigades in Ukraine. Again, It is more about anti-Russian than it is pro-Nazism, because a lot of Ukrainians did indeed see the Germans coming in to take the Russian boot off their throat. Now, good, bad, smart, I'm not arguing any of that. I'm just saying that there are people there that saw it that way.
At the time, yes, that's true, and you can, because of course they didn't know what was coming necessarily, right? They you, you have to remember that there's no 2020 hindsight at the time. They but it's a fact that people in Ukraine at the time, some of them viewed the Nazis coming in as being liberators. They were being told they were being liberated. Tucker Carlson says he's coming to Canada to liberate us. I mean, I don't know what comes of that. Maybe it'll be a liberation. Maybe it'll be an oppression. Who knows when Tucker Carlson gets through with us? I can't predict the future. I can only imagine. Well, I can try to predict it, but it may or may not come to pass. They didn't know what was coming to pass either, and I think, as time went on, they realized, and they've certainly have come to realize, the realities of Nazism and fascism. Is that kind of where we're going with the context on this?
Yeah, but again, the context of the supposed Nazi brigades in Ukraine, they aren't pro-Hitler. They are just, and I've said over and over, wearing a swastika, a Nazi swastika, is stupid, no matter why you're doing it, because people don't care about the context. All they see is that symbol and they leap to conclusions. That's all I'm saying is the context here, that there is gray involved in this. And as you said, we can't judge yesterday by today's standards. They change.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's basically accurate. You can argue one way or the other on whether the guys wearing the Nazi symbols in Ukraine are Nazis or aren't Nazis. One way or the other, I think there are some actual Nazis and people, embracing neo-Nazi ideology in Ukraine. I think they do have a problem. I think we've got some of those people right here in Canada and the United States. They're all over the place, and I even see it.
Absolutely.
Frankly, I see it. Even surprisingly to some in Russia. I see it there. I see a lot of anti-Semitism all over the place. Doesn't matter where you go right now, it is rampant.
That is exactly my point. It is everywhere. That's I said on that last show. Should Putin invade California next? Now, there are many reasons why I'd like to see California flattened and fall into the sea, but the excuse that he's here to denazify is not the real reason. And it's the same with the NATO encroachment that I know you stick by. But Afghanistan, was there any threat of NATO involvement or application there? No. Crimea, not Crimea, Georgia, Chechnya, never any chance they were ever going to be part of NATO or having NATO involvement. My point is history, a pattern of behavior from Russia and that 100-year history with Ukraine. So all these excuses he can make work in the minds of some people who are willing to accept that as an excuse. I just don't buy it as an excuse. And again, Clinton de facto made them a member of NATO. Putin knew this when they gave up their nukes. And like George W. Bush, people love to put all the Iraqi Operation Freedom on him, failing to recognize Bill Clinton signed into law the Iraqi Liberation Act, which made it U.S. policy to remove Saddam. So, again, there's all these little historic details that matter in this discussion, but people want to pick and choose their confirmation bias to their narrative.
Yeah. So, that kind of explains what you were getting at with the comments the other night. And even though I did acknowledge that I got duped by that Back to the Future movie trailer yesterday.
Good. That was
Yeah, it
good.
was really good. Now, you pointed out, it was you who pointed out to me that it was a deep fake. Were you, when you were on here, had you seen it before me showing it to you? No.
I hadn't seen it before you showing it, and I wanted to believe it. That's why immediately after the show, I sought it out. And then I looked for more information, and indeed, it didn't come from the studio, which made it suspect. And so many other videos pointing out aspects.
Oh, did we lose you there? Oh, what happened to you, Joseph? Joseph got blown off the internet. Oh, my goodness. Here, I'm going to bring up that movie trailer, which was... In fact, I think there's even more than one of them. Yeah, there is more than one. I don't... Is this the one I showed you the other night? Yeah, I think it is. In the description, they... Yeah, here's Joseph coming back online here now. So there he is. Yeah, he's back. So let me just bring up this trailer.
Yeah,
Your audio's messed. There it is. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have a blue screen meltdown this time, but for some reason Google decided to go, or not, Chrome decided to go.
Yeah, so this is a deep fake.
It's got the Universal logo. It is not from Universal.
You're missing the big
Studios.
picture here. If time travel were possible, it would be the greatest ethical and philosophical conundrum of the modern age. If you had that kind of power.
Anyway, I don't want to run too much of it. I might get a copyright strike, even though this thing isn't worthy of a copyright strike because it's violating copyright to make the copyright strike deep fake.
Wow. It's a fan, whatever you would call it, right? A
fan tribute.
Fan tribute. There we go.
Yeah,
Let's go with that.
Tribute. Yeah, and really well done, man. Like, it's really good. Amazing stuff.
But
it's just a little fancy editing.
Yeah. Bits and pieces are taken from other things. Like
video
that
game.
part. Yeah, like that part with where Michael J. Fox. Now, Michael J. Fox did say that, but it has nothing to do with Back to the Future 4 movie. And lots of other sites indeed talked about debunking it and where a lot of the different material came from. And because, again, I wish there would be a Back to the Future 4.
Me too. 5.2 million views.
I mean, it's a popular franchise.
And here, I'll bring it back up here and look at the comments in the chat on that, just to show you how many people are being duped by it. And I don't even mind being duped by this because it made me feel good for a little while. Here's this guy says, I don't care whether this movie is good, bad, or indifferent. I just want to see Michael J. Fox on the big screen again. It's been way too long. Epic. I don't care if it's good, bad, or bad. The fact that the original cast are up for this is amazing. Between age and disability, these two are still thriving. True actors to their art respect.
Well,
it just goes on and on.
And what part of makes it believable and why so many are duped by it, because we talked about movies beyond this the other day. Scream bringing back the original cast. Halloween came back with some of the original cast. Ghostbusters returned in Aftermath, and there's another Ghostbusters film coming called Frozen something soon. So there are a lot of Beverly Hills Cop 4 is in production. Beetlejuice 2 finally in production. So a lot of original cast things are coming back, which makes this believable.
Yeah, and I see some comments in there from people who say that it looks like that they made them emotional at the time, right? So, yeah, I got emotional about it too. And look who's joining us now. By surprise visit, he's back by popular demand. Mr. Michalizzi, how are you, sir?
I am doing good.
Good. I suspect that your head blew up.
My head blew up.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. Just leave me out of it. How about that, okay?
Well, I had to get out of bed for this one, Rick. So,
Okay, you go ahead, man.
Mr. Leonard, I will agree with you that Russia invaded Finland first, but you aren't going far enough back in history. So you have neglected the fact that there were other issues between Russia and Finland. The one that really made my head blow up, though, was the OUN. And the other night you said a majority of Ukrainians viewed, Hitler is liberating Ukraine. My wife is Ukrainian. I know the history. There were a few Ukrainians. I have interviewed people on this historical point many times, former Soviets. The OUN was a small youth group originally. They're Galatians primarily. It was a few Ukrainians viewed Hitler as liberating them from the Soviet Union.
I'm not going to argue the point one way or the other. Some did, some didn't, whether it were few or most or many or several or whatever. My point being that some did. Just like in the Middle East, some viewed Nazis as liberators from Britain, Spain, and France. Do you argue with that?
I won't argue that some, but you have to give context to what you're telling people. When you start talking about you forget, you are forgetting as well. So, you're doing a similar thing as to what you're saying other people have.
Yeah, well, you yourself just said some of Russian sympathy and dissent. I want to argue with it.
But we're talking about an extremely small percentage of people in Ukraine that viewed Hitler as a liberator. Very, very small. The same very small groups that they say are Nazis in Ukraine. And I've discussed this point with Rick before. There aren't as many Nazis in Ukraine as most people would lead you to believe. And I've told Rick before, a lot of it is propaganda. And
that's my point. I say, a bit hyperbolic, I'll admit, right? I've said the Putin excuse of denazification is an excuse. It's a convenient excuse.
Well, it's not an excuse. It's a form of justification.
Okay. Let's use that word. That's a better word. Yeah. Thank you. That's a better word. Now, lots of Nazis in California. Should he invade there next? I'm using a bit hyperbolic terminology and language to make a broader point.
But you have to be careful in twisting history a little bit just to make a point. So you have to, you were just, what really made my head blow up is you said people don't look at the context. And My
Oh, they
viewpoint is that you didn't look at the context either. You did not look at the context of Finland.
It's I think maybe in fairness it's difficult to have proper context when you haven't lived in Ukraine. You're getting your information from history books, media. It's maybe somewhat accurate, but I think Kevin, you're bringing a better look at the whole thing and helping us all understand it better,
I
as you
wasn't
did with me earlier today
Yeah,
too, right?
I wasn't
Yeah.
reporting both sides. I was providing only context as a counter to the denazification justification. I was only presenting that other side. Now, yes, as Rick says, there are Nazis everywhere. That doesn't mean in every case there isn't also additional contextual information. I was indeed only providing one side. You are right, Kevin. I was purposefully, willfully, and only talking about one side of that issue because the other side has been out there as the reasoning or justification, as well as the NATO
Well,
encroachment. Like I said,
even
what
the
about
choice.
Afghanistan? What about Crimea? What about Georgia?
It's the choice of words. It's maybe the words could have been chosen a little bit more carefully. Even what you just said right there, there are Nazis everywhere. That makes it sound like, I know it. You don't mean that there are like
No.
everybody's a Nazi everywhere. That's not what you
No.
mean. And so I think that we're all closer together on this subject than maybe people might think. And
I think so, too.
right. And it's not like, I don't think you meant to make people think that all the Ukrainians are, or all the Ukrainian people thought that the Nazis were liberators. Is it fair that that's not what you meant?
No, I will say, Kevin, well, again, now from the Ukrainian loyalist perspective, not those of Russian descent or ties to Russia or Russian speaking, will view things differently than others who have Russian sympathies in this matter. So they're going to view it somewhat differently. A lot of Ukrainians, then as now, see Russia for 100 years as an oppressor. Some, many, most, I don't care the number. I'm just saying that is true in the Ukrainian mindset of at least the Eastern or the Western Ukrainians. There, I have no doubt, some loyalty to Russia in eastern parts of Ukraine.
Well, again, that kind of comes across as half of Ukraine, but it wasn't half of Ukraine. It was a very small percentage. You're talking maybe 1% of Ukraine. Most Ukrainians, and I have actually lived in and spent a lot of time in Ukraine, not only in prior times, but during current times as well. So you would be surprised how many Ukrainians that are there now who are anti Ukrainian government. So, we have to, the Chechens. You forgot, you brought up the Chechens tonight. That made my head go boom too. And understand it's 3:30 in the morning here, so I'm not usually up listening to Rick. But the Chechens actually attacked the Soviet Union first. So Russia had a reason to go in there, and it's not justification, but this is where the cause of the problems were and how it ended up being resolved in the end. And now those people are very loyal Russians.
What was the excuse to go in Afghanistan? Have you got an excuse for that one?
I won't give you an excuse for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll also go back to what was the United States' excuse for going in.
Well, that was 9/11, and my
No,
goodness,
no,
I
no.
don't think it was much of an excuse to go into Afghanistan.
It
But
was it was
that's
the
what happened.
no, it
Yep.
was the domino theory back then. We went in just to oppose Russia's invasion of Afghanistan. We had no vital interest in Afghanistan back then in the 80s, other than to oppose Russia. So I will absolutely agree with you in that regard. It was the domino theory then. And but as Rick says, 9/11, yeah, that's a whole other thing. And that is indeed one time NATO Article 5 was invoked. Uh, you know, Korea and Vietnam, nothing to do with NATO. Uh, Bosnia, Herzegovina, UN, people are conflating UN operations also with NATO operations because it fits a narrative.
Yep.
And you know what, Kevin? I appreciate what you're saying because as a Canadian, I was horrified when Yaroslav Hunka, the Nazi, appears in Parliament and he's applauded. But at the same time, I know because I live here in Canada that the whole country is not a Nazi nation. But the way that story was played out, some were reporting on it as though it was like a proof that Canada is the second coming of Nazi Germany, and it just isn't true, right? It's like I guess we've got a problem, and it's right up there, but and we do have some problems. I'm not denying that, and it seems to have bubbled to the surface lately in pretty profound ways. But I still don't think that Canada as a whole is a Nazi nation. I think it's like a lot of other places where you have pockets of problems. But I throw it to
I
you.
think there was a lot of ignorance in that.
Yeah, Rick, I
yes.
think you're kind of
Yes.
making my point to some degree. So I guess Putin should invade Canada to Nazify it too.
Well, I think that it worries me that if that's the way the country is painted, it might happen. He might feel like he might watch Fox News or something and go, "Oh my God, we better invade!" And the next thing you know, he's got Tucker Carlson on his left and Jackson Hinkle on his right, and Lieutenant Steve Rogers out in front, leading the charge, and he's right in there with them. And the next thing you know, we're liberated. Just and stranger things have happened, and it's weird times.
So I'm actually going to give a counterpoint to Mr. Leonard's statement there about Putin invading Canada. Well, for no other reason than he's Joe Biden in the United States, I think Joe Biden should invade Canada.
Oh my God! Everybody wants to invade
It's the
us.
same reason they had over Syria. They have no reason for it.
They're talking about it. It's like it's just like
Why would
know
why would Biden want to invade Canada? Justin and Biden are both fascists themselves.
I don't know, man.
Why does the United States want to fight Iran? Is it because they're supplying weapons to terror cells that are attacking Israel? Well, reality is we were big supporters of Iran and building those same terror groups that are, attacking Israel and the United States over there right now. So,
we helped build the Mujahideen through Osama in Afghanistan. There's no question of that. And yes, we were an ally with Iran until the Shah was overthrown. And it's the same with Iraq, why so many in America were uneasy about the alliance with Saddam, because the Ba'athist Party literally was created out of remnants of the Nazi Party.
But it was the same situation you're accusing Putin of. Why was the Shah overthrown? Because he was an American puppet. Let's start digging into the CIA's deal and regime change here. So at least Putin comes out and he says, I'm doing this because, and there's a lot more reason than Nazis for why Russia went into Ukraine.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can't oversimplify what isn't a simple issue.
That's exactly
So,
right. I agree with you. And this whole denazification thing, I get it, but I also see that one of the main motivations in using that as part of the justification is because it's something that people in their minds can understand as a
right.
cliche, and
Again,
that's what governments do when they're selling anything to anybody.
show anybody a Nazi swastika and no thought is required. Immediate emotional feedback. So Putin, obviously, I don't blame him for using that as one of the justifications because it's an easy sell to people.
Yep. I'll agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Any comments, Kevin, on the Julian Assange thing today? Have you been looking at it at all?
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it. You know, I I have one of our colleagues who has made sure I keep an eye on it. So,
Yeah.
I'll agree with what you said just a little bit ago, Rick. It's a complex case. Um, I don't honestly believe he went beyond what he should have in reporting what he was given. You know, did he put the U.S. at risk? Maybe, but you know, the guy's been in jail for how many years at this point? And the United States would just as soon bring him back, convict him of treason, and put him to death. But the guy who gave him the documents was pardoned after what, 2 years?
Yeah.
It's time to just say the guy's been in jail long enough.
Yeah,
And-
I think
and-
that's pretty
and-
fair too. Yeah.
And let me say this from the Russian perspective. Russia has reasons to want Assange tried there and convicted for putting Russian lives at times at risk. Again, people want to just latch on to what is convenient for their narrative. Right? Assange has
Did-
let out a lot of things.
Does Putin
about
want
a
to
lot
bring
of people.
Assange there to put him on trial?
No, he doesn't.
Putin-
He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to. I don't know why the U.S. is obsessed with it when he's already in prison. Putin knows better than to bother to go there. But does Kevin? You wouldn't agree that Russia also has reasons to be anti-Assange with some of the Russian secrets he let out through WikiLeaks?
Well, let's say that, you know, yeah, he's let things out. And, you know, would Putin have the right to take the stance the United States does? Yes. But Russia, Russia does not want to extradite him and convict him and put him to death. He's a non-issue for Russia and Russians.
Now,
I live here. I know.
he's in prison. He should be a non-issue for Americans at this point too. But yet, some are obsessed with this. I'm of the Putin mindset on this one. He's a non-issue. Leave it be. I think a lot of Americans want it for the distraction, the Alinsky deflection, to hide their guilt of crimes they've committed. A lot of deep state American government is indeed absolutely corrupt. You're not going to get me to say, "Oh, the U.S. is great. It's all roses over here." If any idiot got that impression, I don't know how. So, I think they're on it just as a deflection.
Kevin, do you think that they want this conviction and extradition and conviction because they're looking for additional deterrence?
I think this is why the United States wants it. I do want to go back to Putin for just a minute. He has actually said that what the United States is doing is not democracy and it is anti-free speech. So You know, I'm just going to say that Russia has the exact opposite attitude of what you're saying. He's such a non-issue that
You're trying to
he
paint
doesn't
Putin,
mean anything to
you're
them.
trying to paint Putin as a major free speech guy now, right? You expect people to buy that.
You know, I don't care if you buy it or not, but a lot of the viewers actually know that I have more free speech here than I have in the United States. I have very few things I cannot speak publicly about in Russia.
As long as you're towing the Russian line, yeah.
No, I have nothing that I can't speak about here other than the censorship that the West hears about in Russia is solely based around not putting out fake news about the Russian military in the special military operation. I would be arrested if I went out and said the Russian army is slaughtering millions of Ukrainians. That is fake news. It's a lie, and it's not allowed here. So it is a very truth-oriented country. I can go out and I can say anything I want about Vladimir Putin with impunity. So
you just might get poloniumed if you know. But so you're saying no Ukrainians have been taken back to Russia to be re-educated. That's all fake news.
Ukrainians have not been brought back to Russia to be re-educated. I will make that statement. Children have not been kidnapped and taken to Russia to be re-educated. Children have been brought back and sent to the Arctic children's camp to get rest and relaxation from a life of war. I have a young lady that Lori has interviewed and I have interviewed from Donetsk who grew up in that. She's a young woman. She is an activist, but she has not been re-educated by Russia. So the only Ukrainians that have been brought back from Ukraine are prisoners of war, and Russia freely exchanges them with Ukraine, except it seems Ukraine likes to shoot down the planes full of Ukrainian POWs being returned.
Yeah, well, you know, that was tragic. Why that happened, I don't know.
Neither do I.
Yeah, that's whether they thought that it was, you know, a plane full of something other than prisoners, improper communication, or intentional. Why would they shoot down a plane full of their own POWs is beyond me. Unless you know, I guess there would be a theory that they were trying to do it to make it. I don't know, man. That blows my mind.
Again,
that whole thing.
Every side peddles propaganda, and quite frankly, I think I've heard some recently here from Kevin. But did they shoot it down to try to blame Russia? Again, every side engages in propaganda and sometimes false flags. I'm not the one trying to take a complete one side or the other here.
Oh, but you are. You are saying Russia is this way, Putin is this way. You are taking sides when you make statements like that.
I am absolutely positively saying Ukraine was not a threat to Russia and was invaded unprovoked. Period. There is no excuse. There is no justification. So there is indeed a good side, the Ukrainians, and a bad side, the Russians. But
you are oversimplifying the issue.
And
that's the issue I have is the other night I'm the one who said to Rick that you were incorrect on your statements. So, you know, I'll just put that out there. That's why he brought it up to you tonight.
Because
you are doing what you accuse other people of. You are looking at this much when the story is actually this big.
You are confirmation biasing. You are presenting a narrative from the Russian perspective only. I am countering that.
I have lived on both sides of the pond.
And I try to see both sides, and I see, the Russian Oliver Stone version, right? And I see I understand the NATO, BBC, CBC, ABC version. I mix them all
Yeah.
together, and I kind of, and then I always try to understand the perspectives. I have my own view. And as
Yeah.
I said, I don't think it ever had to happen. And
Well-
it was a stupid thing for NATO to do. And I think Richard Nixon was right back in the 90s when he said that, the West had an opportunity to help Russia make freedom work after the fall of the Berlin Wall, but it was a missed opportunity. The West never wanted to embrace that. Instead, they kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And this is where we've come to. And,
I agree with you up until that last point, but I have said over and over again, Biden corrupt, Trudeau corrupt, Zelensky corrupt. Are you going to try to peddle me Putin is just sweet as roses?
Don't put words in my mouth. I never said that.
I'm asking a question.
And I'm in Russia. Is Putin corrupt? I don't know.
Oh, well, there's a safe answer. Yeah, and all the polonium deaths, those were just coincidental and accidental, I suppose. Give us another safe answer.
So you want me to take a side on something that I don't have enough knowledge to take a side on?
It's convenient for you to ignore. Convenient.
Well,
very convenient.
So is what I'm going to point out is you are once again doing what I took issue with when you were on the other night, and why I got out of bed to get on here with you is you are being not only biased but opinionated as well. You have an opinion.
I don't deny it. I'm not a Zelensky apologist. I'm not a Biden apologist, but you are clearly a Putin apologist.
You certainly come off as a Zelensky apologist.
I've said over and over how corrupt he is and that no money should be sent because a lot of that is money laundering. Over and over and over. I pointed to example, indeed, Biden corrupt, Zelensky corrupt. You, conveniently, I'm not sure. I might get a polonium pill if I take a side.
Unlike you, I don't blow smoke out my ass when I don't have knowledge of something. You are making statements over and over about stuff you obviously have not looked at and have no real information on. So you're the one who's being an apologist on many things that you have no knowledge of.
I leave it to the audience to clearly decide. I have talked over and over about corruption on all sides and issues with all sides. You're a pure apologist.
It really comes down to it, and we're not going to resolve this tonight.
No, of course we're not.
But it's like it's a view of sovereignty, right? And how history plays into that, or current political situation. Should Ukraine have had the right to self-determination as a sovereign nation? Did Russia have the right to invade? Or was Ukraine truly a sovereign nation? Or had it been, was it the victim of a U.S. military, CIA coup, right? A color revolution. It depends on how you view it. And I do see the different sides. People have to make up their own minds, I guess. And if you're of one mind or the other, then fireworks.
Yeah, and I agree. There are different perspectives. And I have more than one occasion spoken to both perspectives. Everything I'm saying here tonight is just indeed the one side. I'm countering Kevin's Putin apologist.
That is the safe argument to go to when you have no real knowledge about what you're talking
And
about.
that's
is to
the
make- is to make-
convenient dodge, convenient Alinsky attack dodge deflection. Thank you.
So, you're welcome, because I have just accused you of doing what you're accusing me of. So, that's reality.
And I
It is
leave
a
it to the
convenient
audience.
dodge for you to say Kevin is an apologist. I actually worked in propaganda for the United States Department of Defense. So I know what propaganda is. I know what operations have gone on behind the scenes with Ukraine. I worked on planning the invasion of Ukraine back before it was even in Putin's mind. You know, the Color Revolution was a pure CIA operation. When they threw, put in the current government, that was a CIA operation.
And you're not going to hear me argue against that.
Well, so did Russia have a right to go in?
No.
The United States overthrew a legally elected government,
As if
and
Putin wouldn't do that.
then started putting NATO troops in and building NATO military bases on Ukrainian territory, all while claiming they were just training grounds for NATO forces.
Again, which Putin knew back in the 90s when Bill Clinton made Ukraine a de facto nation, then when they gave up the nukes, which they never should have done, as protection against a Putin aggression that everybody on the planet knew was coming. Putin has said he wants to put back together the Soviet Union. Or do you deny that?
That is a lie.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Uh-huh.
You go, and you have now just taken a statement that was this long and you've cut it up into a piece this big. This is where people like you get the wrong idea about what has or hasn't been done, because you are an anti-Russian Russophobe.
How was Ukraine any threat to Russia?
It's
In
not
any
that
way,
Ukraine
shape, or
was the
form.
threat to Russia, it's that NATO
was
How?
the threat to
threat
Russia.
Because
Well,
NATO's invaded who?
I'm going to answer your question. Don't try to talk over me. How? Let me put it to you this way. If Russia put nukes in Mexico, would the United States consider that a threat?
That's directly Russia. Yes.
Okay.
We
would the United
helped them get rid of the nukes.
And would the United States invade Mexico then? Probably.
No. We've scaled
Because
back
the
from
United
invading
States is
Cuba.
so good. The United States is so good about respecting boundaries, aren't they?
I wouldn't ever hear me say that. But again,
Well, you implied that.
NATO is not a threat as a defensive pact to any nation. Never, ever has NATO been enacted
NATO is not a defensive
other
pact.
than 9/11.
No, NATO is not a defensive pact.
Why did Finland just join NATO? Because they know Russia is the threat.
Well, why is Russia a threat to them joining NATO, but Ukraine joining NATO isn't a threat to Russia? So you're talking in circles on this one. So you can't. No, let me finish. Don't cut me off. Cutting people off is a sign of somebody who's already in trouble with their arguments. So Finland joined NATO because Russia was a threat to them. Well, so then we have to put the shoe on the other foot and then say, well, then obviously NATO being in Ukraine was a threat to Russia.
A defensive alliance is never what country has NATO invaded other than Afghanistan after 9/11? I named the nations that Russia invaded. Again, Korea and Vietnam were not NATO pact things. NATO nations were involved, but it was
So
not
let's-
a NATO thing.
So let's talk to my Serbian friends.
That was a UN resolution.
No, they did not have UN backing to go in there. That was a US NATO military operation going in and bombing them, killing people. The same situation as you're accusing Russia of. So let's get our facts straight before we go into things like that. Who is in there right now propping up Kosovo, which is a breakaway region? You know, Russia invaded Ukraine and stole it from Ukraine, you know, by taking Crimea. Okay, what is Kosovo? It is a NATO-backed breakaway republic. Same situation. You can't say Russia did this unless you also say the United States did this. It doesn't justify what either side has done, but let's put all of the facts out to people. Let's not say, oh, this little piece, Putin is bad. Let's also take the other piece and say, he isn't doing anything that the other side's not doing. You know, and this is the problem with the propaganda that comes out of both sides, really, is they skew people's minds. But blocking news in the West, you know, I have nothing blocked here other than BBC and CNN. They've been
have
blocked
nothing
here.
blocked but that, right? You just admitted you block, you censor. You just admitted it. I don't deny we have censorship here. I don't deny it. You just said we don't have it, but then gave an example of censorship.
Well, you know, yes, we blocked CNN and BBC here. Do people still see it if they want to? Absolutely. It doesn't stop anyone from actually seeing it. It was a symbolic gesture because of what they were putting forth on their news. However, how much Russian news can you actually see over there? Zero.
A whole channel dedicated to it. Russia Today.
Russia Today has been taken off the air
Al
in most
Jazeera.
Western countries.
Yeah,
Also, Al Jazeera News.
It's off the air here. You can get it online if you really work at it.
If you really work at it, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It has been taken off the air here. Kevin, thank you.
I'm scrolling through my dish right now to check if Russia Today is still on it, because it was just the last couple of years ago. Al Jazeera.
Couple years ago, everything was on over there.
A couple of years ago.
So you're not going to get an argument from me that there's censorship going on over here. Not going to get an argument.
There is a heck of a lot more censorship going on over there than there is here.
Yeah, well, we're pretty crushed here. They censor the heck out of me.
Well,
yeah.
It's because you're a you know, an everything apologist.
I guess so. All right. Well, I'm glad that you guys are friends again.
Well, and for the record, again, because I deal in facts, I deal in honesty, I don't blow smoke, even though he's accusing me of it. I'm scrolling through, and indeed, I do not see Russia Today on my dish. That doesn't mean it's being censored. It just means Dish Network decided to not offer it as part of their package anymore. But I used to watch it on occasion for decades to get the Russian propaganda side.
It was banned because of when the war or special military operation, whatever you want to call it, erupted in Ukraine.
It may have been removed because of that. I don't know. That is probably, potentially, a good probability to be true.
Yep, it is the case. Same thing with Sputnik being removed from Western sources. So, you know, was removing the BBC and CNN from Russia a tit for tat thing? Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's banned here in Canada. You can't get it on cable systems. They're not allowed to put it up. They took it down a while
Well,
ago.
That may be true of Al
you have
Jazeera,
nobody
too.
in Canada anymore that you can watch other than, you know,
Yeah,
the
well,
Canadian
we
government channel.
Yeah, CBC, CTV, Global, and
We
that's about it.
absolutely agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And like we reported the other day, Fascist Book deciding to try to float the notion of applying Canadian law in the U.S. to block inconvenient information they prefer to hide before the upcoming election to help the fascocrats in the United States.
Well, it's getting to the point now where actually the Canada may no longer soon have access to Pornhub because the Canadian government's
Oh
now
my
going
God.
after Pornhub.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Now
they-
there'll be a revolt now.
Now here's the irony in that Pornhub is a Canadian company. It is, but the Canadian government is getting ready to pass new laws for age verification, and it's basically new censorship. And so Pornhub is looking at just cutting off access to their service in Canada because they're afraid they're going to end up violating this new censorship law. So, yeah.
Yeah, I seen someone in the chat
It's
say
true.
something about fake war coverage from CNN. Well, I don't trust CNN for anything. That the Wuhan hysteria, they were literally showing hospitals with crash test dummies as supposed Wuhan patients. So, do I believe anything out of CNN? No. Pro America or pro Russian? I don't believe anything out of CNN.
Well, you know, they do what they need to do to get people to come in and watch. Rick and I talked about this earlier. Do people go and do they watch the news about the fireman taking the cat out of the tree, or do they go and watch the bloody car crash? Unfortunately, people want to see the bloody car crash. I would prefer seeing the fireman take the cat out of the tree. I think the world needs more of that these days.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah, we could use some more positivity, some good news stories, but yeah, people like the tragedy and the blood and the gore. If it bleeds, it leads.
Yep.
That's the way she works in the news business, folks. That's right. Anything else you want to add, Kevin?
Nope. I'm going to go back to bed and let you gentlemen go at it.
Good,
All right.
good night, Kevin. Have
Yep.
have a good sleep.
Thanks, Joseph. And no hard feelings. Yes,
No.
I accused you of blowing smoke mainly because you accused me of being a propagandist. I will freely admit you're not blowing smoke. If you admit that I'm not what did you put it? Not a propagandist.
I do not think in any way, shape, or form you are purposefully, willfully being a Putin apologist, propagandist. I don't think that. I think you are succumbing to a one-sided narrative because of where you come from. I understand the difference of what I'm saying. I think you're
understand
being. I think you're being fooled, like you, no doubt, think I'm being fooled. Can we agree with that?
We can agree with that.
Yeah.
We are both coming from our own biases.
Okay. See, that's
All right.
great.
Common ground.
Virtual
We have-
shaking of
we
the
have
hand.
Common
Yeah.
ground. Ladies and gentlemen.
And it's like somebody in the chat tried to say, "Whoa, Joe's great now that he finally remembers he's on our side." Well, I try to report all sides. But that doesn't mean I don't take an opinion or a side. I do. I don't deny that.
Yep.
All right. Good
And
conversation.
I piss people off on Rick's show all the time because I will say something that is inconvenient for what the listener wants confirmation bias wise to hear.
That's your job. Piss people off.
Yeah, I say it
Yep.
every time. I'm here. I'm ready to piss people off. If I haven't pissed off everybody in something I've said, I don't feel like I've done.
Oh, and now he's censored.
No, yep, self-censorship.
Yeah, frozen. Frozen. Kevin, I'm going to let you go back to bed, man.
Yep,
Appreciate
thanks.
your call. Thanks,
guys.
thanks for
thanks
popping
for your
in. And
support out there.
yeah,
Rick, thanks. Talk
thank
to you later.
See ya. Bye. And Joseph, you're frozen, man. You're frozen. Oh my God, he's a frozen man. Okay, let's take a break while we thaw Kevin out. I'll be back on the other side of this.
Fighting the Great Reset. By leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm back. And Kevin's out there somewhere, or rather, Joseph. Kevin's sleeping. It's early morning where he is. So in Canada, moving on to other things, the government is going to spend $15 million to combat the rise in auto theft. I told you a while ago, maybe a week or so ago, that they were going to put together this special committee group of public officials, including politicians, law enforcement, to look at this problem, this growing problem with vehicle theft. And they're working with Interpol. This is an international problem. A huge increase in auto theft. The federal government in Canada says 90,000 cars are stolen annually in Canada, resulting in about $1 billion in costs to Canadian insurance companies, which then pass those costs on to policyholders and taxpayers. So today, this week, a news conference was held with these committee members, and Public Security Minister Dominic LeBlanc in Canada addressed this issue of financing for this new initiative. I'm going to bring this up and share it with you now. Here we go. So you can see what the government is saying about this. And I have it for you here.
Mr. Leblanc and Mr. Laguerre, in recent days we saw a case where criminals
In fact, I think maybe I have the wrong
for
clip.
stealing high-end cars who were released by the courts.
No, maybe he's
because
coming
the
up
courts
here.
Could not have the needed
I hope you
time
can
to
hear this
even
okay. The audio is a little
handle
bit
the
low.
case and bring them to trial.
Yeah.
What is the point in all those measures if the judicial system cannot even handle those at the source of these crimes?
Your question is a good one, and I know our colleague, the Minister of Justice, is working with provincial and territorial attorneys general responsible for the administration of justice. There are cases, and we see it across the country, where judicial resources, in some cases it's prosecutors, in some cases it's defense lawyers or legal aid lawyers, judges. There are pressures on these resources across the country. Obviously, a circumstance where somebody cannot be brought to trial in the appropriate timeline and therefore is not subject to a criminal prosecution is unacceptable. So we're going to do what's necessary in that space as well. We're obviously not going to comment on a specific case that was before the courts. We have, as a government, strengthened the bail legislation. We recognized, as did provincial partners across the country, that for repeat violent offenders, there was in many cases a lack of public confidence in the ability of the bail court judges to hold those people in custody. We're talking again about repeat violent offenders who perhaps should not be let out on bail if the court believes that there's a risk that they would reoffend. So we strengthened that part of the criminal code, and we'll continue to look at all of the instruments necessary to make sure that the judicial system, from the judges to the prosecutors to the defense lawyers, doesn't become an empêchement or a barrier to doing the work that we've all just talked about now. I don't know, Fadi, if you want to add something.
Again, it's a great question. The police department have the same concern. When we arrest people, we want to make sure that they're going to be going to the court. Recently, I'm going to make sure, I'm not sure about the numbers, but recently the Justice Department of Quebec announced 8 or 10 new judges, which is going to help the system to go and proceed much faster, and we're going to be able to avoid some of the cases when the delay of Jordan is involved.
And sub-question, Mr.
And we'll just pull out of this now. You know, I guarantee you that what we're dealing with here, and I'll just bring this up. Chop shops, man, chop shops. That's a big part of it. They're chopping these things up for parts and transporting probably whole cars, partial cars, parts back and forth across the border, shipping them out overseas. I guarantee it. It's been going on for a long time, and it's something that is on the rise. So federal government in Canada trying to address that with new money earmarked to combat auto theft in Canada. International problem. Welcome back, Joseph.
I don't know what's up with my system today, but I had a blue screen freeze that time. I had to reboot. That's NSA. The NSA is at it again.
Yeah, you said some nasty things about Mr. Putin, and he reached out with his cyber team from the other side of the globe and shut you down, man.
Well, no,
Or it could be the CIA.
I would
probably the
say
CIA.
it's more Biden's. How many times did I say how corrupt Biden is?
Yeah.
I've called out my side umpteen million times tonight, and I'm sure that's upset some people. I've seen it in the chat. Like I said, the one guy saying, "Well, it's nice to have Joe back on our side," or whatever he said. He's nice that Joe finally remembered whose side he was on. When I'm on the show, I'm not really on anybody's side. I'm just here to try to present information that might be lacking and let everyone here decide. But do I have an opinion? Yes. Do I have a position? Yes, absolutely.
Well, let's get your opinion on this, and maybe people in the chat have something to say about this as well. We can check in there in a moment. Neuralink. Elon Musk, as everyone knows, his company Neuralink recently broke new ground, made history by implanting a Neuralink brain chip into a human being for the very first time. So Elon Musk was on an X Spaces conference online and was asked how the patient is doing. And we have for you now the audio from that X Spaces. Is it X Spaces or X Space? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. This online community conference call. And Elon Musk tells us where things are at with the first human being implanted with a brain chip from Neuralink.
Another question. Do you have any updates on the Neuralink patient?
Yeah, I don't want to use this to sort of break major news on that. But
yeah, no worries.
Progress is good. Progress is good. Patient seems to have made a full recovery with neural effects that we're aware of, and is able to control the mouse, move the mouse around the screen just by thinking. So we're trying to get as many button presses as possible from thinking. So that's what we're currently working on is, can you get left mouse, right mouse, like mouse down, mouse up, mouse, left mouse, sort of left button down, left button up, which is like kind of needed. Like you want to like click and drag something, you need the sort of mouse down and to hold on mouse down. And then there's, we want to have obviously more than just two buttons. So we're trying to make progress on that front, but overall it's looking very good.
Pam in the chat over on Rumble says that, what was it? She says, the brain chipping will soon become a very dangerous thing for all of humanity. And PDS says, by the way, did everyone smash the thumbs up? Please do that. And Leo says, if it was a success, he be hyped. I think it is so far a success. I think, well, I don't know. It basically is like a Bluetooth transmitter in your mind that allows you to, it's really the Bluetooth radio waves that go out and then you can control things, but you're doing it with your mind, right? So it's pretty crazy stuff. I can't imagine what it would be like to do that. You have to, you literally, I think, Joseph, would end up rewiring your brain, because I would think that once that chip is implanted, you start to think about doing things in a different way, because as a human being, you're able to reason, and I'm just theorizing here because I've never had a brain chip before, and this is the first person that's ever done it. We don't really know what they're going through, But wouldn't you think that if you have the brain chip in there, you would start to think about doing things differently in the same way that, you know, if you were going to travel someplace today, you might think about using a GPS instead of a map, a paper map. Does that make sense to you? It's like you're thinking about things and it approaching stuff in a different way, knowing that instead of having to touch something, you can just think it and sit in your chair. It's like that. Maybe this is a better example. You used to have to get up, walk across the floor, and change the channel on a television set until they invented the remote control. Now you can just sit in your chair and control things literally through the internet all around the world just with your mind. You don't even need to click a mouse. You can start your car just by thinking about it. You could, if it's interfacing with you with sufficient speed and efficiency, it might even be able to upload stuff into your mind. I think that's where things really start to get weird and futuristic, is when you start to upload data into your brain and it starts to be two-way communication. And there has to be some degree of two-way communication already for there to be one-way control.
Yeah. Now you touched on a few. Me being a former IT guy, yeah, I could see some great benefit of AI and some great harm from AI. The same with this. I see great possibilities, and thanks to Donald Trump, we have right to try in America now. I think this could be great, and I'd like to see, you know, disabled people, people with brain damage potentially be able to use it and get control of themselves. I oppose the notion of eventual we all become the Borg. And that's where the concern is, right? Not you able to upload or download into your brain, but some other force to force information and thoughts in your head. And the other issue is we all have a lot of thoughts, sometimes stupid thoughts, and sometimes thoughts of, wishful thinking that we would never, ever actually act on. Where is that safety net of between the thought coming in your head and you really want to actively engage that thought, as opposed to, gee, wouldn't it be nice if so and so weren't here anymore, versus then that thought becoming an instant action and you pulling a gun and shooting them dead. That's a fleeting thought you had, but it's not one, because if you're a moral person, you would act upon, but the chip takes over and forces your body into acting upon that. These are real safety concerns we have to be, asking and trying to get answers to.
Well, with propaganda, which we've been talking about, they're really already manipulating us, trying to control us through the information we're picking up online through our phones every day. This has been going on, well, much longer than any of us realize, through all forms of media, television, movies, print, right? And before that, I would say even just stories that people tell, trying to convince somebody of something verbally, or even using gestures or other forms of communication. Even music can be a form of propaganda and therefore mind control, if you will. And mind control can be taken to, extreme levels, using drugs and hypnosis, if you will, or other forms of manipulation. But for me, at least you have a fighting chance in this environment. You have some degree of free will, but if you have a computer chip implanted in you, you're leaving yourself open, maybe not right now, but maybe in the future, I'm just thinking you might be leaving yourself open to being hacked. As Yuval Harari, the futurist, has said, humans are hackable animals. And I think I think he was really referring to more of things on a biological level where maybe you can hack into somebody's DNA using, maybe mRNA technology to get your body to react in a particular way to develop immunity to a disease or, things like that. But you could be potentially leaving yourself open to hacking so that they could implant ideas and even control you remotely, right? Without even you understanding or realizing it's being done to you. I think right now we're being manipulated in ways that we don't fully appreciate or realize, because when we go to the supermarket and I buy Heinz ketchup, it's because I saw a commercial for Heinz ketchup. I'm conditioned over time to buy that through marketing, which is a form of psychological manipulation in itself. But, there are different levels of it, and it begs the question, like, at what level does it become unethical?
Yeah, now I think you are correct in saying what was being said about being hackable is indeed the whole notion, the whole idea behind the guy's thoughts and hopes for mRNA eventually. And like I said, the father of mRNA says it ain't ready. If there's anybody that knows, it's the guy that thought of the whole concept to begin with. But yeah, the chip opens us up to a whole other level and kind of hackability.
Yeah, it truly is turning into a brave new world. Every time I turn around and every time I look around, I see this is, Aldous Huxley. This is a brave new world, from the drugs to the attitudes towards sexuality, relationships, the economy, industrialization. From the Model T to the future. We have a brave new world, and now the computer chip from Elon Musk and the Borg. We're being Borgified, and maybe I shouldn't make light of it. I have to laugh about it, I guess. But also, you're also there's this subtle coercion that comes with this, because in the future, as they make this technology available to people, not just to cure, or address blindness or even paralysis and allow people to walk again, which is what they say is the reason for pursuing the technology on an ethical level. I think that we're going to get to a place where, with the ability for people to use their minds and actually jack into the internet and have instant access to massive amounts of data and information, you won't be able to compete in the job market or maybe even survive in the modern world if you're not jacked in, because you will not be able to process information as fast as the guy next to you, and therefore won't be able to survive in whatever profession or job that you might choose. This is the dangerous thing. You might be left with no choice but to get chipped in order just to survive in the future.
I think you said important information there. And as a former IT guy, there's part of me that loves the notion of being able to put a chip Wi-Fi connected to access information as and when I need it. But as an IT guy, also, I know those dangers and that concern of the hackability and the whole board concept. But what you said about their intent is good about helping people with limitations. But everything starts out with an intent for this or that, and always, eventually, as part of our free market notions, what's the next market? Right? It's all, how do I grow this into more money? How do I make more sales? You open a new market. So you open it to people beyond needing it due to disability. I have no doubt that that will happen down the road, because we see that in everything. Everybody's always looking to expand their market. You don't ever see a company shut down because we sold all the widgets we need to that market that we planned on selling widgets to. No, it's how can we sell widgets to other people now?
Overlay a socialist ideology onto that, and you have a future where people are chipped and you can't really compete unless you are chipped, but you're charged a fee to get chipped, and then people are going to demand it as being a necessity, and on a basis of equality or equity, maybe depending on which word you want to use, and which approach to this socialist utopia that some people may want to pursue in the future, and say that that there's no justice for people unless you offer them the chip, or maybe even force people to take the chip.
Yep, there's that too. Yep, there will inevitably become that point where a new class, the chipped and the unchipped. And like you said, then those demanding, well, I can't afford the chip, so Rick has to pay for my chip.
Yeah, well, society has to pay for it, I guess, collectively, to level the playing field and give everybody equal opportunity. You wouldn't even have equal opportunity unless you have the chip, or at least you should have, at that point, equal opportunity to have the chip. And what scenario might you envision, Joseph, where the chip becomes mandatory in some way, where you are required to have the chip, and then maybe it's not even a matter of choice, because maybe through societal pressures and government mandates, perhaps, people are chipped at birth without their consent, with their parents saying whether they get chipped or not, in the same way that they might choose or not choose circumcision.
That's the usual progression, right? Think a lot of things. Voluntary at first, but there was always somebody with a power and control agenda that they feel an advantage by forcing whatever it is, if they can get an advantage somehow out of it. And that thought being, well, we can hack all these people and make them all think the way we want them to. Yeah, power control would then lend to, we are going to force you, because then we can force you to be Borg. Think exactly like we want you to.
And people are worried about, being tracked now. When you're chipped, baby, you ain't getting away. They'll not only track you, they'll control you. And if you're a soldier and you disobey orders and don't hold the line, they'll blow up your head. I mean, we talked about heads blowing up. They'll literally blow up your head when you're chipped in the future. I can see it.
Isn't that in a movie? I'm pretty sure that's in a movie. Yeah, already.
Well, people are out there, some of the really, 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 should I say paranoid or just fearful? They think that by getting the thing in the arm, they're already blowing people's brains up with, I don't even want to say it because we're going to get banned on YouTube just for going down that road. But no, you guys all know what I'm talking about. But the chip could make that a reality in the future. Thank you very much, Elon Musk, which begs the question, is this guy really about freedom?
In some cases, yes. He's not a conservative. He's not a Republican by any means. He's definitely a capitalist, though. He's willing to exploit the green agenda to line his Tesla pockets, right? So why wouldn't he, provide anything else for whatever other reason, even if evil, if it lines his pockets more also? I mean, if he were being honest about Teslas, I really truly believe in this agenda, I'm not going to take any government handouts to achieve this. No, he's not doing that. He's going to take the money.
Well, Joseph, you know what? It's just about that time of night. Now, you're not going to be able to hear the phone system, and I have a new phone system, and I need to test it tonight. Just, a couple of quick calls from people so that I can make sure the thing is working. We're not going to dig deep into the call-in session tonight. You're welcome to stick around, but I'd have to double speak. I'm gonna have to double speak the stuff because you won't be able to
Yeah.
hear the way the system is set up because you're not cooked into the audio. But here we
Exactly.
go. Okay, folks, give me just a second. I'm going to run a promo, and then I'm going to show you the new phone
So-
number to call
So
tonight.
I'll bow out. And
You're going to
let-
bow out? Okay.
Let the callers call in and badmouth me if they like. Yes.
That's okay. They do it to me all the time. So I'm in good company. Thank you, sir.
Take care, brother. Have a good one.
Thank you, Joseph. Okay, and there's Joseph M. Leonard, author of Terror Strikes. You can find his book online at Amazon. Go check it out. Go buy his book. And yeah, let me take a quick break. I'm going to get this new phone thing set up, and we'll see if it actually works. Stick with me. And I'd really like tonight somebody new call in. All right, see if we can get a couple of new people. I need at least 2 people to call so I can check the call queue system, and let's try and get some new voices on the line, or maybe if you haven't called in for a while, call in. All right, let me. I'll put the number up momentarily. Get ready. Get your dialing finger ready. Get it worked out. Stretch it. All set. Pretty close. All right, let's do it. And don't eat those crickets.
We are Mavericks. We say no to the Trudeau and Biden New World Order. And to bugs. Because bugs are creepy and gross. And people should not eat bugs. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, let me run the promo here with the new phone number. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call now at 1-319-527-6770. That's 1-319-527-6770. Ignore that. It's already not working. The test mode doesn't work at this time of night. I'm finding out because it's prime time. I'm 99.99999% sure it's going to work. So here's what I'm going to do because I got you guys all cranked up and excited about it. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. Stick with me. We're going to go back to the old system. It works just the same way. We'll just use the old number. Hang on. Another promo, then the number, then you guys can exercise your right to free speech right here on the Maverick News Channel.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm punching the numbers. Phone lines are open. We're ready to rock and roll the old-fashioned way. Here's the number you need to call now. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation at 1-902-200-4222. That's 1-902-200-4222. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-902-200-4222. Call now at 1-902-200-4222. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you. All right. There we go. And just waiting for some calls to pile up here. Hang on just a moment. Okay, let's go to our first caller of the night.
I hear you, boy. Hello.
Hello, John. How are you tonight, sir?
I hear. Hang on a sec. I'm lost here. Hang on. I hit something on my iPad and it's all gone funny. Okay, back to normal. Anybody seen Joe?
Joe who?
Joe Biden.
I
don't think he's campaigning. I don't. You know what? I think something's up. I think they're gonna get him out.
I don't know.
I think so. I heard they're gonna get him out.
Some people are saying that.
He needs one of those Elon Musk chip in his head, you know? He's got Alzheimer.
Yeah, he's not all there. Did you see that Donald Trump started talking about acknowledged, I think it was about 6 people on a short list for a running mate? Did you see that, John?
For a what?
For his running mate. He was asked in an interview.
For what? Oh yeah, I heard something about that.
Yeah.
I didn't read it though. I seen the headlines, but I didn't read it.
I've got the list here someplace. I know that DeSantis was one. Vivek Ramaswamy was mentioned. He gave the nod to Tulsi Gabbard. This is just off the top of my head. Tim Scott was another one. Who else was there? There was, those are the main ones. Any thoughts on that? Who do you think, who do you favor? Who do you think he'll pick? Any predictions?
Well, you know, I don't like Trump, but I like DeSantis. I like that other guy, Kennedy. Kennedy, I like.
Yeah, he's not on the short list that was mentioned anyway.
What Trump did to me, I voted for him. I supported him. I followed him. I worshipped him. What he did last time to me, I don't forgive. Okay? This warp speed. And he never took the vaccine, but he wanted everybody else to take it because he was raking in piles of money.
Did he not?
Trump's all about money. Never trust a billionaire.
Did he not? I thought he got jabbed. No.
Nope. No, he took that other one there. I remember him going to the hospital when he had it. He was in there for like 5 days, and he got intervectum, whatever it's called. That's what he got.
No, he didn't get. He got. He got the medication when he got COVID.
Yep. Intervectum, whatever it's called.
Yeah, not ivermectin. That wasn't what he got. It was. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't remember it off the top of my head. I think they stopped using it. Actually, I don't think they use it much now, if at all.
Why? Because it worked.
Probably,
anyway.
Yeah, I think there was some.
He came out. He goes, I feel like $1 million, but he never got the vaccine. Trudeau never got the vaccine.
Well, yeah. I saw him get vaccinated several times.
Oh, yeah. You ever seen someone give a vaccine with one hand?
Okay, John.
Doctors-
Okay. We know, but we can't talk about it here on
Yeah,
YouTube.
let's
You're
not
going to
go
get us
there.
banned. Okay.
Yeah. But anyhow.
Well, it's right here.
Listen,
I'm
man,
looking at a
we've
story
been
from
lied
December
to.
20th, 2021, and Donald Trump says he got the COVID-19 booster shot. This is December 20th, 2021. And there are many, many stories, and he announced it at a speech. So yes, I was correct. I did remember. I'm getting old, and I'm not quite Joe Biden. My memory didn't quite fail me on that. Hello, you still there?
Okay, well, okay. All right.
He
All
got
right.
he got juiced
I
up.
believe you.
Yeah. He got her.
Mm-hmm.
He got her. What
Well,
else
my
is
mistake
going on?
then. I thought he didn't, but
Yeah, we got a big.
I like Trump.
Yeah.
I like Trump, but he's got a lot of targets on him. That's the problem, eh?
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure.
He's got a lot of targets on
What are
him.
you gonna do, John, when they ban
And,
Pornhub? What are you gonna do? What?
Pornhub. I don't look at Pornhub.
Oh.
I
what
got a chip
are
in my head.
people gonna do
I've
when they
got it all
can't get
laid out in my
Pornhub?
head.
What?
I got a chip in my head. I can just. I got a good imagination. Real good imagination. When that goes, then I'll be.
then we're in trouble, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
because they're the new censorship
Imagination
stuff
in your
coming
head's the
out.
best.
Imagination is the well, there's something to be said for that. The old movies, they had the censorship code, and sometimes it there's an argument to be made that a little bit of modesty and a little bit of a little less skin is a lot more sexy sometimes. It's a little bit of mystery in there.
Mom's going. I'll be
teasing.
hanging around the Zanzibar. I've been to all the strip joints in Toronto. They're
Yeah.
Mouth. Yep. Back. I don't go anymore. I haven't been to a strip joint in years because of I don't like it no more. But back when I was young,
Yeah.
Christ, Markham. I'm in Toronto. Markham. Back then, you can do whatever you want with them. This is back then. I'd go in there and spend $500-600 bucks.
I don't think I want to know.
On a
I
girl.
don't think I want to know.
Well, I'm just letting you know. Back then, you can do whatever you want with them. Today, they'll rob you. So you got to be careful, Rick. But Leo, there, he used to work. I know a few guys who used to be work at strip joints, and they picked up dishes and empties and stuff. Oh yeah, they're always trying to get something free out of the strippers, Anyways, I was out Mother's Day, Family Day. I went up to Lake Simcoe. They had fishing huts out there.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them. I got some good pictures. I sent PDFs up. There's like 30, 40 huts out there.
Yeah.
And I was gonna walk out to the hut. I started walking on the ice. All of a sudden, oof, my foot. It went into the water, halfway below my knee.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm out of here. I walked back. I went to the office, and I said, anybody? Do you have to save anybody from falling through the ice? She said, no. They're all Chinese. They run this place up at Lake Simcoe.
Oh yeah.
And she says, I said, you catch it? What do you catch here? What kind of fish? There's largemouth bass. Somebody caught a pike, she said the other day, a big one. But she says they haven't caught anything. They drive you out. It's like a big skidoo. It's a wheelie. It's more of a 4x4.
Yep.
With a big trailer behind it.
Yep.
And they drive you out. They got a fridge in there. They got heat. They got TV, whatever you want. If you want to stay there for a week, they got everything in there, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't go, but I checked out the prices, and it was pretty interesting. But the ice, she said, out in the center, it's thick. Along the shores, she goes, it's thin there. So that's why my leg went in. But I was maybe 20 feet from the shore, starting to walk into the shed, and boom! And I said, I'm getting out of here.
So you didn't you didn't actually engage in any ice fishing?
No, it's $125 for 4 hours for 4 people. So you know, I might go. I've never ice fished before, Rick. So I have to go with someone who knows how to ice fish.
Oh.
The only thing I do a lot of brook fishing, and the only thing I do is charter fishing. I like charter fishing. Lake Ontario. You just put the wheel back there and stand back. There's like 10 wheels, and then you got these good fishermen that I go with. They got so many depth finders, and they know where the fish is. And they got the CBs, and they talk to other boats where the fish is, and they go there. I always catch something big there, right?
Oh, the fish don't stand a chance with that technology.
Yeah. When I go brook fishing, I never catch nothing. I don't know. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's kind of depressing sometimes.
I've been out on.
You fish?
I used to go fishing all the time when I was young, when I was a kid, teenager even, right? You know, I used to go all the time. I was very fortunate. I grew up in London, Ontario, and where I lived in the south end of the city, there are some ponds, and right in the center of the community, there's a giant wooded area it's still there today. They've never allowed the trees to be cleared. And so when I was a kid, I didn't live far from that. So we used to take a canoe, and we made up a big wheel for it so we could roll this canoe down the road and over way, you know, down the lane, and then over into this wooded area. And then we'd roll the canoe down these paths all through the woods, and we'd get to these ponds, and we'd put the canoe out and we'd go fishing. We did that many summers. And so I'd go back there and catch smallmouth bass back in these ponds. And that was great fun. And I was so fortunate to grow up and be able to do that kind of thing right in the middle of a city. So pretty unusual. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess where you are, it's probably good fishing up there.
Yeah, right here,
Water here is awful
right
loose,
here
most of it.
in where I live, we have Mitchell's Bay, and some people say it's the best fishing, best freshwater fishing in the world. It's a very shallow bay as part of the Great Lakes system, and there was a gentleman that lived up there that I met once, and being in television, it was a special meeting for me because his name was Red Fisher. And he lived up there, and he had he had a television show, and he was the Red Fisher show, and he had Scuttlebutt Lodge, and when I was a kid, he'd be on TV, you know, spinning old fish tales, right, with his friends, and that was the whole show on. I think it was on Sundays. And then one day, just by chance, when I moved to this area, I was up in Mitchell's Bay, and I was working, and I was actually getting into independent production at the time, and I just happened to meet him. And I was just beside myself because I got to meet Red Fisher, who was a professional fisherman, an angler, right?
I know that
famous,
guy.
yeah. Do you know Red Fisher?
I seen him on TV.
Yeah.
Red Fisher. Yeah, he was on TV.
He was
Red Fisher.
For years and years and years.
I
He had a
think
fishing
so.
show.
I think it was him.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of fishing shows. I was just watching up in the Arctic. These Eskimos, they catch beaver in the ice.
Yeah.
They build these traps. They set them all up, and then they go back a day later and yank them out, and they got a beaver, and they catch all these beavers, and it's pretty interesting. I go up to Manitoulin Island on the res there. We go fishing all the time. but they use nets there. They don't use rods. They use fishing nets. He's got a fishing hut in his backyard that he built. It's a fishing smokehouse.
Oh yeah.
I got a lot of pictures of it in case I want to build one myself one day.
Yeah.
Take a bunch of pictures. But he smokes fish in there. Right? He puts them in there, you know, and it's all made of cedar. It's pretty interesting. Smoked fish.
Well, I'll tell you, if I think that people should stay off the ice. I mean, maybe up further north, someplace it's okay, but down here, it has been so mild. If there even is any ice, I don't think it's safe at all. So my advice is, folks, if you live anywhere near me, stay off the ice, because today it was like spring. Spring, man. I'm telling you.
The natives are not even going ice fishing. Rick, the natives are not even going ice fishing up in Georgian Bay.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Lake Simcoe, they got all huts, but they're run by Chinese. I went to the office. They're all Chinese in there. So I guess they'll do anything for a buck, eh?
Well, I don't know what you mean.
So.
What do you mean? I don't get it.
Well, why have they got so many huts out there? It's dangerous, like you said.
Oh,
My
well,
foot went
yeah.
through
I
the
mean,
ice.
yeah. I mean, it happens every year. People don't think. They get careless. They think it's safe when it isn't. Every year, people go through the ice or get into trouble, and the cops have to go out and rescue people. And you know, it's amazing how many people go through the ice and die. Skidoos, you know, snowmobiles going through the ice, especially this time of year when it starts to get warmer. You got to be so careful. I wouldn't go out on the ice. I used to go out and do television news stories at least once or twice a year on ice fishing, and usually in Mitchell's Bay. And I'd go out and, you know, but I wouldn't go unless it was like January and the coldest of the cold, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because.
Well, it's been a bad year.
Yep.
When I was up in Yellowknife, we went to this little cabin right by Great Slave Lake. It's right there, right on the lake, and they served whitefish in there that they caught in the lake. Man, that was some of the best fish I had, Rick. I tell you, the best fish. And CBC was in there filming us. I guess they had nothing better to do. But that was some good fish there. Everything's so expensive there because they have to fly everything in. But a lot of char. I ate a lot of char fish. I don't know. I don't even know what that is, but that's what they call it. Char.
You know, I know what char is. That's when I try to cook my fish.
The best fish.
That's when I try to cook, and then I realize that I'm no chef, and I have to scrape the black stuff off and eat it anyway. That's me. That is me.
that was fun. That was ice fishing. That was in the wintertime. I was up there.
Yeah.
And then Newfoundland. As soon as you get off, I think it's Corner Brook. It's where the Queen goes all the time off the highway.
Oh yeah.
We always go in there, and you get a big platter of fish for like back then it was like $10. Big platter, and there was cod tongues on it. Every kind of fish you can think of, Rick. Cod tongues, everything. It was just big platter of fish for like $10. What a scarf that was, man. And the Queen used to go there all the time, they said. It's right off the highway on Corner Brook. But I like Gander. Gander's my favorite part of the Newfoundland.
Gander, Newfoundland. It's Ganderful
that's
there.
Where you... Gander.
Ganderful.
That's when you... That's where when you want to eat fish, that's where you go, Newfoundland, man.
Yeah.
If you like that smoked salmon, you go to Vancouver. You get the best Vancouver there.
Gander, Newfoundland. That's where they redirected the one flight on 9/11, and then the people landed there, and they were taken into people's homes, and that became a little piece of history in itself. I don't know if people remember that. That's where that Ganderful word came from, because people said that Gander, Newfoundland was
very friendly.
Ganderful.
Those people.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. those Newfies are very friendly people. Man, they all got big hearts.
They
But
do.
just after 12 o'clock in a bar, get out because there's always fights. I'm telling you, after 12 o'clock, get out of there.
Oh man,
I've never seen. There's always a fight there. Always a fight after 12 o'clock.
that's hilarious.
You know, I get on the plane at 7 in the morning, and they're ordering shots and beers.
Oh man.
I'm serious. Those Newfies, man, they drink you under the table. They like to drink, man. But they got big hearts, man. Those people. I love Newfoundland.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good place.
Yeah, I haven't been there,
Yeah.
but I've met many people from Newfoundland, and every one of them has been extremely friendly. You know, some of the friendliest people I've met. The other place where I found people to be extremely friendly is Tennessee. Yeah.
Tennessee
Of
is
all
a
the
nice
places I've
place.
been, and I've
never
been,
been there,
not
but
that I've been all, a super world traveler or anything, but I was just blown away by how
Tennessee's nice.
friendly the people were in Tennessee.
I've never been there, but I like to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to go to Tennessee.
My goodness, the people there. Yeah.
The only place I've been in the States is Newfoundland. I mean, Vegas, all over Vegas, and North Dakota, and Buffalo. That's about it, Rick.
Yeah.
I don't get out too much. But Canada, well, I was working for Walmart, so that's why I been every town I went to, every city in Canada, I was looking for a strip joint. I wanted to check out the strip joint. And nobody
Wow.
wanted to go with me. I was working with all these old geezers. So
You
I had
are
to
a
go
man
by
of
myself.
culture,
So
sir.
I took a cab.
You are a man of high culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to every strip joint in Canada, you can say.
Well, there's something to brag
Well,
about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in my 20s or something, you know. What do you got your hormones going back then, eh?
So you're a ballet aficionado, are you? You like the ballet?
Back then, yeah.
You like the ballet?
Ballet. I
The
don't
ballet.
get it.
The strip clubs, dancers, ballet. It's okay. It's
Oh,
all right.
that kind of ballet. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all of Canada, it wasn't like Markham here. When here in Markham, back then, oh my God, I'm telling you, you can do whatever you want with them. But out there, nah, it's just look. They have to have one piece of clothing on everywhere. You know, back I don't know if you've ever been back. I don't want to get you in trouble with your wife there. Forget it. Let's change topic. It's like I was gonna say, Rick, if some woman came up to you and offered you $2 million to have a one-night fling with her, would your wife let you do it? I don't want to go there, Rick. I was in McDonald's last week. I wanted to try those new rib burgers. What are they called? McRib.
Are they back? I haven't been to McDonald's in
okay.
so long. I couldn't tell you.
It was okay, but it was $7.50 and I said, no frickin' way. I'm paying $7.50 for another one, and they don't even fill you up, eh? So I went to the can to wash my hands before.
Yeah.
There's a kid in the mirror there squeezing pimples. Right
Okay.
in the mirror, and I go.
Well, how dare he?
I was gonna say something, but he was bigger than me. He was like 6'2", squeezing pimples. I was gonna say something to him, and I said, "I better not." It's disgusting, man. He's squeezing pimples, squirting in the mirror. You know what I mean?
Oh, nice.
Right up there squeezing. Yeah. So I never had pimples when I was a kid, but. and then I went to eat my rib, and all I kept thinking is, fucking guy squeezing pimples in the fight. I go, oh my, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this.
You know, my
But
mind,
I ate it. And
my mind is fading. Did you tell me who did you think was going to be Trump's running mate? Did you make a prediction? I don't remember.
I like DeSantis, but I don't think he's going to do it because anything Trump touches turns into a shit show. They're going to be. He's got like 100 targets on him. Everybody's out to get him, man. Like if I was him, I would just hang up the gloves. You were there. You've been in the White House. You could say you were president. Enjoy the rest of your life. Because, listen, if you had that kind of money, Rick, would you, and you had all those targets on your back, would you take that job? Man, he must have, I don't know what's wrong with the guy. Everybody's after him.
Yeah.
I like Trump. I think he's, I think he did a great job the last president. He did a great job. But with all those targets on your back, and you got all that kind of money, all the assets, golf courses everywhere, the guy's got it made in the shade. Why do you want to go through this? The guy might get shot.
Yeah.
You know that?
Well, anybody who is president might get shot. They all take that risk.
Well, I don't know about Biden. Biden, I think he needs a chip in his head for sure. But that guy, he's
even Reagan got shot.
He's got bad case of dementia.
Do you remember Reagan getting shot? Reagan got shot. Ronald Reagan was shot.
That's another one, yeah. But why did he get shot? Because he was a conservative, or
because the guy's nuts, basically.
Yeah.
What can I say?
I talk a lot of politics with Americans,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them, they hate Trump. Really much, they hate it so. And if you talk about Trump anyway, that you like, it's like.
Make sure you speak into the mic there, John. You're off mic and the audio is real low, and it's getting late too. So why don't I throw it over to you to kind of give me a final thought?
I was going to go outside and check out the weather.
Oh yeah. Well, it is very mild today. It is a beautiful day. So, yeah, more or less. Just give me a final thought, sir. Wrap it up for me.
Well, today is breakup day for everybody. National Breakup Day today. If anybody cares.
I didn't know that.
Nah, that's not a good thought. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so today's National Breakup Day. So I don't know if people are breaking up though. I don't follow that stuff.
Well, they say breaking up is hard to do. But we're not breaking up. We're going to do this again tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it. So with that being said, thank you, John, for calling in. We're going to wrap it up for the night, my friend.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, Rick. Nice talking to you.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Right,
all right, see ya. And let me just have to click a button here. And there we go. And it is time to wrap up the show. Thank you, everybody, for spending the time here again tonight. It's been a privilege as always. Thank you to Kevin Michelizzi for popping in twice tonight. And thank you to Joseph M. Leonard for joining us on the program as well. It was a great discussion, even though some heads blew up. But sometimes in the land of politics, that's what happens. I will catch you all back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.